In this video, I'm going to show you how I made this cable knit pillow for my ongoing bedroom makeover. I'll post the pattern for this in the description box below, but you start out by casting on 56 stitches, just using a regular long tail cast on. And then it basically just consists of repeated rows. Row 1 is knit the first 8 and then purl 4, and you do this 4 times, and then you knit the final 8 stitches. And then on the back side you purl the 8 stitches, knit 4 times, and then purl the final 8 stitches, and you do this for a total of 7 rows. This is kind of like a wide ribbing, if you can think of it that way. Then on row number 8 is where the different stitch happens. You're going to start out the same way. You're going to just purl the first 8 stitches, and then when you get to the 4 knit ones, you're going to grab your cabling needle. This is a cabling needle. It's kind of like a double pointed needle with points at both ends, and it has this little nook in the middle of it to kind of hold your stitches to keep them from slipping off. And what we're going to do here is called a 2/2 cable left. We're going to take our cable needle, slip it into the first 2 stitches, and just slide them off onto the cable needle. And then you just let them hang there to the front. Then you take your knitting needle and knit the next 2 stitches, as you normally would. Then you drop your knitting needle, your left knitting needle that is, and you grab your cabling needle, and you're going to knit those stitches off of the cabling needle. And what this does is it makes an area of twisted stitches. And we're going to do this every 8 rows to give us our pattern. So you just continue the pattern in this way. You'll purl the next 8 stitches, and then you're going to grab your cabling needle again, and then slip those first 2 stitches off, and knit the next 2, and then knit the 2 stitches off the cabling needle. And that's pretty much it for the pattern. You do the wide ribbing of the knitting and purling stitches for 7 rows, and then on the 8th row you pull out your cabling needle and do the cables on the knit sections. And you'll just continue knitting this until your piece measures 17 inches. Once I have my piece bound off, then I just give it a light steaming, not actually touching it with the iron, but just letting the steam penetrate it so it would flatten out and stop curling so much, just to make it easier to work with. And then set that aside and grabbed my backing fabric and gave it a light hit with the iron, just to get the wrinkles out of it. And then I cut it into a 17-inch square. And then put the 2 pieces right sides together and just kind of center the backing piece on the knitted piece. Now the knitted piece is going to be a little bit wider, that's okay, we'll just make sure it's completely centered on there. And then I just pinned the heck out of it. The knitted material is very stretchy, so it needed a lot of pins to keep it from moving and misshaping when I put it through my sewing machine. And then, of course, I just ran through the sewing machine. Now, I only sewed and pinned around 3 sides of the pillow. We leave one end open so that we can stuff our pillow form into it. And I used the whitest stitch my sewing machine could use, and I lightened up the pressure on my presser foot to be able to fit all the material in. And once it was sewed around 3 sides, I just turned it right side out. And then stuffed the pillow form in. Now, I recommend using a pillow form and not just stuffing it with loose batting, because this knitted fabric is, you know, kind of holey. The stuff will come out through the holes eventually. So it's nice to have your stuffing in another casing on the inside. So then we just need to close up this final end. I just folded over the fabric with the same seam allowance that I had used on the sewing machine. And we're gonna hand stitch this shut. I'm sure there's lots of proper ways to hand stitch this. This is just how I did this pillow. I used a needle and some thread that matched the backing fabric, and then just kind of looped it through a couple of times here at the end to secure it, to keep it from coming out. And then I just went down through the backing fabric, making sure to catch the knitted fabric below and out like a 1/4 of an inch away. And then went back in between the stitches that I had just sewed, down, out a 1/4 of an inch. I just kept doing that, going back down through the fabric between the 2 stitches that I just made, and then out a 1/4 of an inch away, and back down in between the 2 stitches again, all the way down through the pillow. Now, I did find that when I got to the middle section of the pillow where it was a little fluffier, it was harder to keep it closed, so I did grab some pins and just pinned it to keep it in place to make it easier for me to sew it, as you see here. But then I just continued pinning and sewing until the hole in the top was completely closed. There you go. There's the final product.